Tundi, why did 7 governors from Chafford Primary School resign?
According to the letter of resignation which was presented at the last governing body, they had a difference of opinion, is the best way to say it, and thought that the best way to do is, I think, maybe to best serve the children of Chafford 100 was for them to leave.
A difference of opinion on what?
Governing bodies of every school have got the they've got the power, so to speak, to their main role is to set the policy of the school, set the policies and direct the finance, etc., etc. And then once it's done, almost like in council, where councillors do that, and then we now have officers like they have the head teacher, who would therefore implement it. As a member of council, as an elected councillor, if I'm not happy with the way things are going, I may choose, it's my prerogative to say I'm not happy with the way things are going, I'm stepping down. Not that I am, just to make sure that is clear, because at the moment I'm happy with that. But I think when you bring that to the governing body, it's the same thing. Tough decisions need to be made. There are always decisions in respect of resources, how to manage resources, and there could always be a difference of opinion. And where the difference of opinion, at the end of the day, I always look at it as, who are we serving? I sit on the governing body, I don't know if you know, I sit on the governing body, and my capacity as a governor in Chafford Primary School, what's my role? My role is to ensure that the children who go to Chafford Primary School receive the best education. And at times it might mean for me to sit on the governing body, at times it might mean for me to challenge some of the decisions made, at times it might mean to make difficult decisions about funding. But at the end of the day, I never take away the final objective, getting the best quality of education for the children.
The thorny subject of the extra demountable classroom and what happened 2 years ago with the Chafford 100 for Chafford parents or Chafford children's.
Chafford schools for Chafford children.
Thank you very much. Is that something that's come back and hit the school on the head? Has that been an implication at all?
No, it's funny that seems to be the rumour. Even I'm hearing, people phone me up and say, is it because of that? Somebody else phoned me today and said, is it because you've put this extra classroom in? And I said, no, it's not that at all. The 2 years ago there was an issue, as widely reported, and yes, it was eventually agreed to put an extra class in. This year there were 39 children who didn't have school places in Chafford 100, and the local authority and the governing body, along with parents, worked together to find these extra classes. And governing bodies of Warren Primary School and Chafford Primary School agreed to put extra classes in. It wasn't, there was no whip over our heads to say you must do this. It was an agreement. So that wasn't the case, and I'd just love to clear this now. There was no coercion whatsoever, no big whip, no threat, nothing. As far as I'm concerned, as I said, I sit on the local, on the governing body. Nothing which said you must put this classroom in or else. The governing bodies agreed. Sorry, Mike. The governing bodies discussed it with the local authority, discussed it among themselves, and agreed. And I can speak about this internally from the governing body because I think my understanding rather is that it's the same process was gone through in Warren Primary School. So.
But the statement from Thurrock Council indicated that the governors had worked hard to put the school back on a sound financial footing. I would understand from reading that at one stage it wasn't on a sound financial footing. Where did the blame lay there?
I wouldn't talk about it as a sort of blame game, because that's not the objective. The objective is to ensure that resources are spent as prudently as possible. In this situation of Chafford School, yes, there were issues in resources, but isn't that the situation in the whole of the UK? Issues about resources anyway, and we all have to be prudent about how we spend the money. So if the best illustration is to say, if I want to buy 10 cars because I think that's the best way to go forward. But you say, no, let's spend that money in buying 3 passenger buses and 7 cars, right? Then it's a discussion or a debate that has to be had. There's only so much money that the school has, and that money has to be spent adequately. And there will always be difference of opinion about how that should be spent. But at the end of the day, as long as it's managed properly, as long as it's providing the service for Chafford Primary School's children, then to me that's the main thing. And when we look at this school, the last Ofsted report was complimentary in its assessment of the school. The last exam results show that the school is one of the best schools, not just in east of England, but in England. So look at the results and look at the challenges we're going through. And at the end of the day, as a parent of a young child going into year 1, what's my issue? Well, how is the school doing? Well, Ofsted said it's doing fine. Well, the last year's result, it's fine. So there's an internal issue about the managing of the school. Has that been resolved? Well, yes, it's been resolved by 7 governors resigning because they made up some points of principle. Yes, I respect the governors. I know them personally. I speak to them, and we've spoken to some of them even after they've resigned. But I know their heart. Their heart at the end of the day is to make sure that the school progresses as adequately, well, doesn't go down in its lovely onwards track, and so I respect them for their views.